Sahana bhavatu, sahanao bhunaktu, saha viryam karavavahe, tejasvinavaditam astu ma vidvishavai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy, and may our study be illuminating to us. May we not unnecessarily cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Ramanama Varanani. We delight in the beautiful name of Sri Ram again and again, because even if this is once remembered, the name of Sri Ram bestows the fruit, the results, equal to the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu or the recitation. So we continue with the story of Ram. We'll recapture a few things from last week, and we'll see how for the first time Sita discovers this curious monkey in the tree, and he persuades her that he is a messenger from Ram. And we can immediately see the wonderful bond between Hanuman, the servant, and Sita, the Divine Mother. In his eyes, that's how it is. He's struck with her purity. He's struck with her radiance. Even in these circumstances, he's struck with her courage, but he also sees her sorrow. Mixed emotions, joy and sorrow together, naturally. And she relates to him how there are a few incidents while they were in the forest, how Rama protected her, how Rama went to the ends of the earth, really, in a sense, to make her feel comfortable. And so she misses Rama, there's no doubt. Rama and Sita, these are two sides of the same coin, and it gives everybody who enters into the household or married life a model that the hearts are joined together. They were joined together in previous lives, they're now joined together now. And when we understand this properly, we see how heart-wrenching it is for the two of them to be separated. Now, even in this way, in a devotional way, when we feel that emotional separation and when this yearning develops, then you see this Ram and Sita is really the philosophical separation between the Atman or the Jiva and the Atman, and regaining this unity of existence. When we get that feeling that of separation, what mystics may call the cloud of unknowing, or you see, the dark night of the soul, cloud of unknowing, we begin with a little bit of confusion. It seems that there's a vague sense of separation, but then you see there is this yearning, this painful sense of separation, longing for the beloved. This is a wonderful example of this. And then we have Hanuman, who is the messenger, representing, if you like, philosophically, the mind itself, and how the mind has to persuade the personality, if you will, or that side of the mind, that it is. We will be rescued. We have no need to pray for salvation. We simply anticipate the fact that we will be saved from all the vicissitudes. We are protected, and Rama is coming, and she portends the end of Ravana and the end, of all the Rakshasas there in Lanka and Lanka itself and so on. And she begs Ravana, I'm seeing these signs, don't embark on your own self-destruction. Draw a line under this. But of course, he's in no mood to listen. When our own minds are obsessed with one thing or another, this obsession comes from egoism, a sense of pride, a misidentification with the material circumstances of the world, the body, the mind complex, and all the environment around us. And we get confused, and we start being angry, and we start being subject to temptation and doubts and fears. We walk around boasting of our own power. Ravana is like this. So what to do? Don't forget, she's given Anjaneya or Hanumana a jewel to take back as evidence to Rama. He offers to take her with him. Says, you can climb on my back. I'm the son of the wind. I can puff myself up to any dimension I like, and I can easily take you. Let's go now. Why do you want to suffer? But then, you see, wisdom has to come in. And wisdom says, no, Rama himself has to come and rescue me. And the broader thing about it is that there's a danger. There's more of a danger in you doing that. And what if? We have to be reasonable about things. What if the Rakshasas capture you? Then it's the end of both of us. That kind of explanation is there. No. You go back. You jumped across the sea, you jump back again. And Rama must come with all his armies and rescue me. The uniting between Rama and Sita has to take place in a formal way, in an honorable way, and in a way that will restore dharma universally. And so Hanuman begs Sita for a token of his having met her. She gives him a jewel. And now Hanuman feels very satisfied, because for the first and foremost time, he feels the first and foremost purpose of his mission, his adventure into the territory of Lanka. He has achieved two things. He has understood the layout of the enemy. He knows it very well. He's acted like a spy. Secondly, with his own eyes, he has seen Sita. And he's also seen the ruthlessness of Ravana as well. And so with all of this understanding and knowledge, the power that remains in Lanka should be given. A foretaste of the punishment is his conclusion before he departs over the sea. And it would be inflicted on them, and if they transgress their boundaries in their dealings with Sita in captivity, they would suffer. And that's the first thing. And the second thing is that the strength of the enemy warriors can also be tested. It's no good me just leaving with all my spying information. But I have to test out how strong is this army. So it's an important factor for the invader. If you see any military maneuvers in history, you'll see that the strength of the army has to be known. And sometimes then you can make a subterfuge. You can attack the weakest part of the army, or you can divide the section of the army that is strong. There are a number of different maneuvers that can be done. And so he realized that the Ashoka was the favorite resort of Ravana, both for his enjoyment of the company of his wives and for planning serious projects. And so Hanuman decides that the line of action and devastated this charming grove as quickly as his father, the wind god, would have done. And he pulls down the huge dome of the temple of Lanka and sits majestically on its terrace, and he waits. He's expecting opposition. And so this is where we pick up the story now. Naturally, the Rakshasas are alarmed. They run hither and thither. It's created quite a stir, you can imagine. And they all run to Ravana and report the havoc that's created by what they describe as a huge, huge monkey. And perhaps this monkey has had or been in secret contact with Sita. But you see, the demon king doesn't give any serious thought to this incident. It's a monkey after all. And he directs his bodyguards, his immediate protection unit, to go look for the monkey, hunt the monkey, and hunt the monkey to death. And so a big battalion actually rushes out to enjoy the fun of killing a small monkey, or what they assume to be a mere monkey. But strangely, the whole battalion of the bodyguards was done to death. Done to death by that slighted creature. And then Anjaneya makes a big proclamation that he is an envoy of Sugriva. And the mighty monkeys of his type were going to come. They're going to destroy Lanka, and they're going to do it very soon. And don't forget, they have a deadline, a few months now, and that's all they have left. So before he's doing this, of course, he's assuring Sita, because Sita has some doubts, of course, and that's why he's testing out the army, about how the army will cross over the sea. That's the first problem. That's a big barrier. And have you thought of that? She asks him. And of course, she becomes doubtful. Now, we often become doubtful because we have many, many obstacles in the way. In all our life, we come across obstacles. In fact, you might describe life as identifying and jumping over or bypassing all the obstacles which are there, not by attacking them or running away from them, but by understanding we have the capacity to do so using our physical and mental equipment and getting around any obstacle. No obstacle will be too big for us. And Hanumana assures her, do you think that I'm only just a Vanara? And you think that even I'm just a Vanara that can just cross the sea? No, there's not a Vanara, but has more power and skill than I have. Everyone has the capacity to do this. And not only Sugriva, but many in his own army can fly around the whole world. What is this arrow sea to them? There are thousands among us, he says, who can roam in the sky. Don't please have any doubt about it. And she blesses him, of course, and before he creates the havoc. Now you see, the parting itself is extremely sweet before he creates all this havoc, and the eternal bond is there between Hanuman and Sita. So there's many reasons why Hanuman should have this sense of fun. He wants to, of course, among other things, to instill fear in Ravana to prevent him from troubling Sita again. So he's giving him a foretaste of the power that can be mobilized and made to come. And Ravana has, of course, untold wealth, and one cannot part his friends from him. And so conciliation, what we call sama, dana, buying somebody's affection, giving gifts, beda, sowing discord. These are all techniques and tactics and are useless in this particular case. Now it's very interesting, these three approaches, classical approaches, when viewed with a threat. You can either make peace, you can have negotiations and sign a peace contract, at least for the time being. Or you can put in foreign aid, something like foreign aid. You can bribe your way through, set up a trade agreement, regardless of the ethics of the country that you're dealing with. Or you can do the opposite. You can divide things, beda, you can sow discord. We find many, many historical examples of doing this. Anyway, we should see something terrible to frighten them, was his conclusion, and that's how he comes really to destroy this dome. But of course, we have to understand a few details. It's not just that he sat on the dome and removed it. Because first of all, he begins to grow. He assumes the huge form, you can imagine. And he begins to lay waste the grove, the Ashoka grove. And so This has the effect of trees cracking to the ground, bowers collapsing, tanks and artificial hills being disfigured and destroyed. And this beautiful Ashoka park soon becomes a massive ruin from which the deer and the birds run away in fear. And the sleeping Rakshasis, they wake up, because don't forget, this is in the night or the early hours of the morning, and they are bewildered, just as you would imagine when you wake up to see this unaccountable sight. And then, of course, Hanuman sits on the top of the wall of the garden. He's a huge figure of wrathful menace and waits for the answer to his challenge. And the Rakshasas, they quake with terror at the sight of the stranger. And of course, as we know, some have run to tell Ravana the news. And some have approached Sita and asked, how did this huge monkey get in here? You should know who he is. Did he say anything to you? Tell us the truth. Don't be afraid to speak out. How do I know what can happen in this charmed world of Rakshasas, is her calm reply. And so this monkey, she says, is probably one of the Rakshasas. And you're likely to know more about him than I am. Very clever answer. She's not giving any ground. Anyway, we know that the Rakshasas run away in fear from the park. We know that they report the incident to Ravana. And so what they have left out of their report to Ravana is, who had in fact fallen asleep and had given a chance to Sita to talk to the monkey. Nobody mentions this. So they say, we tried our best to get some information from Sita about this monkey. We asked her who he was, how he came there, and what he told her. She refuses really to answer, or gives her an obscure answer. You should seize and slay this creature. That's what you should do. And send a strong force, my own guard. The beautiful grove is completely devastated, except for one thing, the Simspa tree under which Sita is seated. Its spreading branches have suffered no damage whatsoever. But we have to report the monkey has laid waste to the tanks and the bowers, and he has spared no habitation. There must be, or he has spared no habitation except that of Sita's. Sita's habitation he has saved. So then, naturally, logically, there must be a reason for this. And they say that we suspect it's not an ordinary wild animal. It must have been sent by some enemy of yours. Maybe one of the deities, maybe Indra, maybe Kubera. Or could it have anything to do with Rama? That's the other alternative. And then we have to ask the question, how this monkey dares to talk to Sita if that's the case. He must be a messenger from Rama, is a conclusion. He must be sending a message to send your warriors to capture this terrible beast. Now Ravana was furious on hearing that his favorite park, it was set aside for his queens and his leisure, had been completely destroyed. Imagine. And we can see a description that Valmiki gives, that his eyes glowed with like twin torches, and hot tears rolled down from them like drops of burning oil. And of course, we know, what he does. He turns to his bodyguards, as we mentioned in summary previously, and he's standing there ready to get the order, and he gives it, go and destroy this monster monkey straight away. And so they do that, and of course, their king's command is to destroy these with all the equipment that they have described as maces, spears, other weapons. Now the Rakshasa warriors see with amazement this mighty Vanara seated on the garden gate, who at their approach grew to still bigger size and formidable menace. And in some accounts, you see, he's sitting, he's taken the dome off the temple. You have come, have you, he said, and jumping down, he taunts them. He brandishes his tail and strikes the ground with it and roars till the four quarters shake. And he snatches the huge iron bar from the gate, and he uses it as a weapon and begins to attack them all. And he springs and leaps in all directions, and whirling the iron rod, strikes the Rakshasas down one by one. After finishing them thus, he resumes his seat on the top of the pillared entrance and roars once again. Long live Rama, he says. Long live Lakshmana. And he loudly proclaims, long live King Sugriva. Oh, you Rakshasas of Lanka, your doom is near. And the great warriors, Rama and Lakshmana and King Sugriva, have sent me here to destroy you. Come on in your thousands. I stand here ready to hurl you into your own destruction. I've saluted Sita, it's true, and I've received her blessings, and now I'm going to destroy your city. Now you see, when we take up this discipline of self-control, and when we combat the Rakshasas in our own mind, we have to do it with as much strength as possible. No milk and water attitudes, no vague, half-hearted efforts. With the fullness of our strength and courage, with every ounce of our energy, we should employ our virtues, our noble virtues, and combat the other ones, the vices which are there. Anyway, coming back to the story, the whole of Lanka hears the thunder of words, and they quake in terror. And when the news reaches Ravana that the warriors sent against Hanuman were all destroyed completely, he opens wide his fierce eyes in amazement and anger. When we don't get what we want, we become angry. We notice it when we are 3, 4, or 5, but it carries over no matter how mature we think we are. Any expression of anger is unjustified. There's no such thing as a kind of justified anger. What is it you say? And called Jambu Mali, the matchless warrior, son of Prahasta, and he says to him, you, go at once, punish this monkey and report to me. Now often you see people who feign superiority will look on so-called inferior people. The world has this classification: those who have wealth and prestige and those who don't. And this can be international, nationwide. It can be there as a colonial attitude. It can be there really in a nation, and it can be there in personal life. But you see, when you puff your ego up and try to diminish the importance of the other, then you come across trouble. It becomes an inflated ego, and you become angry when it is in any way afflicted. Anyway, the Rakshasa, Jambu Mali, he takes his time to put on armor. He wants to be prepared properly, and he takes up the weapons, and he's ready to meet his enemy. And meanwhile, Hanuman wasn't sitting still. You see, if you take time to do things, then expect something else, something quicker to happen. And it is then that we come back to the incident where he sits on the top of a temple in the park and stands there shining against the horizon like a second sun, suddenly risen in the sky, and he magnifies his body still further and looks like a golden mountain range up in the heavens. And he roars, and his roar fills the city of Lanka, and it raises echoes from all the 8 quarters, and the hearts of the Rakshasas tremble in fear. We have to say 8 quarters. We know 4 cardinal points, but the intermediate points will be 8. Incidentally, this is why all the Vasus, there are 8 Vasus mentioned in the Vedas. That is 8 cardinal points. So it means that there are 8 dwelling places, 8 places where we acknowledge there is space everywhere. And then he shouts again, the mantra, which we all have to shout, long live Rama, long live Lakshmana, long live King Sugriva. I have come as an envoy of the king of Koshala, and I have come to destroy Lanka. I am Hanuman, son of Vayu, come here to utterly destroy the enemies of Rama. I have vowed before Sita and received her blessings, and you have to know I possess the strength to vanquish 1,000 Ravanas. Big boulders and uprooted trees, these are things that I shall aim at the Rakshasas. I shall destroy them. And that's what I have come here for. And the sentries, of course, in the temple, they are armed and they take up various weapons and they attack him. And Hanuman jumps down and plucks up a big pillar supporting the temple and stands there like the destroyer, whirling his massive weapon easily, as though it were just a willow wand. Hanuman strikes down and slews the enemy, or kills the enemy, slays the enemy. And the temple from which the pillar has been removed collapses. And as Hanuman strikes the ground with the pillar, sparks of fire fly all around. We can imagine now the devastation. Only in modern times we have this kind of understanding where we see contemporary warfare. And in Sugriva's army, there are monkeys much mightier than me, and they will soon be here, he says. You and your king and your city will be destroyed by them, root and branch. Your king has unfortunately incurred the enmity of the Lord of the Ikshwaku race. And this, if you didn't know, this announcement I'm making here, and Lanka, therefore, your whole city and country is nearing its end. So I have to tell you that destruction awaits you, he tells the Rakshasas. The god of death is approaching your king, Ravana. And Jambumali, the great warrior, he arrives at last, having put on his heavy armor, and with wide glaring eyes and ugly, irregular teeth, dressed in scarlet, with large golden rings in his ears, and his bow in his hand, and his garland round his neck, and his sword at his hip, he comes in a chariot, rattling like thunder. And Hanuman sets his eyes on the chariot and dragged by enormous horses, and he gets ready to deal with it. And Jambumali, who is seated in his chariot, bends his bow and aims just a few arrows at Maruti, Hanuman, who was seated on the wall. They wounded his face, there's no doubt, and they draw blood. And that adds to the beauty of his face, actually. It was as if a red lotus had suddenly blossomed in the heavens. And the wounds enraged Hanuman, who picks up a big boulder and flings it at the chariot. You may notice that in images of Hanuman, he's red in color. He uproots a sal tree and twirling it, he flings it at Jambumali. And then he plucks out a huge iron rod from the temple and aims it at the chariot and reduces it to splinters and crushes the huge body of Jambumali into a shapeless mass in which neither head nor limbs can be distinguished. The issue of this battle is duly reported to Ravana, and he is struck with wonder. This is indeed something strange, he says to himself. This murderous brute is not an animal, certainly not a mere monkey. It's some new creature devised by me, by my old enemies. Maybe the gods have devised this and structured this to annoy me. So he orders his mighty commanders to go with a great army to capture the creature and produce it before him. And the Rakshasa chiefs, they go forth in a great array of chariots, and in full force they attack Hanuman. And Hanuman, as before, is stationed on the top of the entrance, and he laughs aloud. He's laughing in disdainful unconcern. Now, you know, in the midst of all our difficulties and problems, when great chariots and enemies seem to come to us on all sides and oppress us, when life is at its most difficult, what is our reaction? Do we stand calmly with a certain sense of humor? Do we mock these things that are coming? Do we take them seriously? We shouldn't, you know, since there's only one thing, since there's only a play or a game. And this is the game or the story of Rama. So what is the effect of this disdainful unconcern, this eagerness of mind and cheerfulness? Well, all these missiles showered on him mostly glance off him harmlessly, of his strong frame. And each dart or arrow that strikes him, with each one he grows in stature and fierceness also, and ranging all around with energy, pelted with them with rocks and huge tree boles, until all the leaders, they lay crushed and they lay slain. And all the survivors, they run away in panic and despair. All these vicissitudes will flee before you with strong adamantine faith. Anyway, having killed or put to flight the entire contingent of Rakshasas, Hanuman roars in triumph, and Lanka trembles at the roar, and he resumes his seat on the stone battlement on the top of the garden gate. It's a curious figure he's portraying. Anyway, hearing of the defeat of the force sent to capture Hanuman and the slaughter of 5 of his best commanders, for the first time, fear enters into Ravana's heart. That's the intention. Twofold. Find out the enemy's strength and also give a warning shot across Ravana's bow. It's extraordinary that a solitary monkey should have this devastating valor and purposeful kind of effect. And Ravana thinks with anxiety, well, this is clearly a conspiracy of the gods. It cannot come from men. Don't forget, his boon is he's immune from destruction from men. But he keeps his concern to himself, and he still, out of pride, laughs derisively. He looks around at all the members of the great council, and his son, the heroic Aksha, stands foremost, eager for battle, and the proud father encourages him, go forth to battle against the tremendous enemy. Ravana himself is not engaging anybody. Radiant with youth and health and glowing with high courage at this opportunity of distinguishing himself, Aksha goes forth in a shining chariot, confident of his victory. And Valmiki describes in beautiful verses how the youthful warrior Aksha, who is the equal of all the deities, all the great forces of the universe, rides to battle in a chariot drawn by 8 beautiful horses. You can put up in a different way of describing this Valmiki's poetry, describing the beauty of forests previously, the terrible fury of encounters between warriors, the rhythm and grandeur of his words. They convey the terror and majesty of what he describes, and I am hoping I'm doing some kind of justice to his words. But the power is Valmiki's special gift, the power of description, of getting us to imagine the scene. And we can only summarize in a small way this great battle between Aksha, who is the beloved son of Ravana, and Hanuman, who is the son of the wind. Anyway, in a golden chariot acquired through tapasya, Ravana's young son rides. We have to explain this. Where does Ravana get all his power from? Where do the Rakshasas get all their power from? It is from tapasya, discipline. It is from meditation. Not all meditators are spiritual beings. The movement of power, the power of thought, mobilizes the whole universe and delivers what we want, for good or bad. It may be in our favor, it may be against us. If it is virtuous, it is in our favor. If it is full of vice, it's against us. So it is through tapasya that these boons are granted, this power is granted. Now when Hanuman sees this, and he's there seated on the stone battlement above the gateway, and he notes approvingly the beautiful symmetry of his enemy's mighty limbs and the majestic intrepid nature of his look. And Aksha feels that here is an enemy worthy of his steel. And he summons all his strength and resolution to do him honor, because even in the midst of all this battle, there is still honor in the military side of things. There is still an element of chivalry and warfare, or following the rules, playing the game well. Anyway, the young warrior aims 3 sharp arrows at Hanuman, and these arrows strike his body and they draw blood. But Maruti's strength increases and his face shines with new splendor. And he too was pleased with the prowess of the youthful Rakshasa. We should praise people where praise is due. We have to remember what Patanjali says in his Patanjali Yoga Sutras as part of cultivating our meditative capacity, concentration. Be friendly to everybody. Those who are successful, congratulate them. Don't be jealous. And those who have failed or not successful, feel compassion for them. So these are some of the rules that are being applied. So the battle is fierce, and the battle is fierce between the two, and hundreds of arrows rise in clouds into the sky, and they all hit Maruti. And it's like rain falling on a rock. They fall on Hanuman's body, rising in the air, and Hanuman dodges them. He evades the arrows, slipping as it were through the meshes of that deadly network of missiles, and finds a favorable opening closed with Aksha, corners him. Hanuman admires Aksha's youthful promise and heroism, and he is sorry to have to slay him, but there's no help for it, for the prince seems to get more and more formidable as the fight goes on, and it's unwise to take chances with him. So at last, Hanuman, even though he admires his enemy, he hardens his heart and decides, okay, enough is enough. I will destroy this youth. He rushes against Aksha's chariot and breaks it to pieces. The horses fall dead, and the Rakshasa prince stands on the ground chariotless. And nothing daunted, he rises in the air with bow and sword and attacks Hanuman. A great battle takes place in the air, and in the end, Aksha's bones were crushed and splintered, and he falls down dead. Now, all these descriptions sound a little gory, but nevertheless, you see, there are more gory things that your children will see in their comics. And we have to understand very clearly that birth and life from death is the name of a certain game. Anyway, hearing that the prince has been killed by Hanuman, Ravana shakes with rage, but controlling himself, he calls his son, Indrajit, that is, the one who conquers, the very king of all the deities, Indra himself. Now there's a play on words a little bit, because Indra is the king of the Indriyas, all the senses. And so we can clearly see the yogic interpretation of all of this. Now, you have mastered all weapons. You have vanquished the Devas and the Asuras in battle. You have by your austerities called Brahma down and secured from him the Brahmastra, the Brahma's own weapon. There's nobody in the world who can oppose you. This is what Ravana is telling his own son. Fatigue cannot approach you. Your knowledge of battle is unique. You've attained strength through tapasya. Nothing is impossible for you. Of course, this is a wonderful motivational speech, but in the wrong direction. None can equal you in foresight. If this kind of motivation and energy is applied in the right direction, imagine the power. The Kinkaras I sent, Jambumali I've sent, 5 generals of our army I've sent, and your dear brother Aksha, unfortunately, he has been slain by a terrible enemy who has raided us in the form of a monkey, and it is yours now to avenge them. Don't underrate him. It seems he cannot be vanquished by weapons. He cannot be brought down in wrestling. So consider well, therefore, what needs to be done. I'm telling you blatantly, the power that you're up against. Don't underestimate it. So do it and return victorious. The astras you have secured through tapasya, they can serve you at this very moment. And without allowing your mind to wander, fight with concentration, return victorious, triumphant. Indrajit, bright like the gods, accepts his father's command with reverence, and receiving his blessings, he goes with courage and eagerness towards the Ashoka Ravana, and standing in a chariot drawn by 4 fierce lions and twanging his bowstring, Indrajit proceeds towards Hanuman. His chariot sounds like the wind of the monsoon, and his lotus-like eyes shine victory. Now, as Hanuman sees the chariot coming towards him, he is filled with joy, because Indrajit too, skillful in battle, bends his bow, and he gets his sharp arrows ready to attack Hanuman. Knowing that a great battle is at hand, all the subordinate deities, if you will, the supernatural creatures such as the Nagas, the Yakshas, the Siddhas, they all gather in the sky to witness. And at the sight of Indrajit, after all he's conquered Indra, Hanuman roars and increases his stature still further. And silently the Rakshasa warriors dispatch his darts. And a shower of arrows begin to descend, as in the battle of the day of the gods and their cousins, the Asuras. Hanuman rises in the sky and moves with speed like lightning, strikes down the sharp arrows, and his roar makes quarters echo, drowning the drum beats and the bow twangs of the Rakshasa. And the battle rages with increasing fury and fills all beholders with amazement. In skill and strength, the 2 warriors were perfect equals. No matter how often he is wounded, Hanuman's strength shows no signs of lessening. Indrajit therefore resolves, my arrows cannot vanquish this monkey. That's my conclusion. What my father says is true. I didn't underestimate this, and now I have verified his words, and he can be bound only by using my Brahmastra, my supreme weapon, coming directly from Brahma himself. And the Rakshasa prince sends this forth, and at its touch, the Vanara warrior Hanuman lies eventually bound and helpless. And Hanuman realizes what has happened. And he says to himself, well, nothing can touch me, but now I have been bound by Brahmastra. That weapon that is delivered from the cosmic mind is the most powerful. And so Hanuman too has secured a gift, a boon, also from Brahma. And he now remembers this. So the boon, he feels, he evaluates that this weapon, this state of being bound, will only last for 4/5 of an hour. I run no real risk long term. This is the gift that he has been given. So let me see what the Rakshasas do to me while I lie bound and helpless. I might find here a further opportunity to function as a messenger and as a spy. So he allows himself pretty much to be bound. Our own mind is bound. Now we can allow ourselves to be bound with this idea in order to play the game. We can allow it because all the evolutionary forces called the gunas, those binding forces, including virtue, will bind us. But if we are convinced of our own freedom, our inherent freedom ultimately, we can be patiently wait and play it out. And after 4/5 of it, then we can do something different. Anyway, as instructed by Brahma when he gave him the gift of immortality, he surrendered himself to the Brahmastra and lies down on the ground inactive, but in full possession of his faculties. And when they see Hanuman lying helpless on the ground, all the Rakshasas, who till then stood at a distance in fear, surround him and dance with joy and call him insulting names and praise their prince. See, Indrajit, you have conquered this monster. All glory to you. And then, of course, their nature is this: we shall cut you to pieces. Let's eat him up, another one says. We shall drag him to the throne of our Ravana. And so, in many other ways, they shouted and hurled abuse at him. And a few among them feared still and said, well, maybe this fellow is only pretending. He may get up suddenly and attack us. You know, we've seen his strength and power. Maybe this is all, he's just playing a game. We have to be cautious. So they bring ropes of jute and coconut fiber as strong as they can find, and they tie him up. And then they shout, now we have bound him. Now they're satisfied. Let's drag him to the Lord of the Rakshasas. And Indrajit, who discovered too late and couldn't prevent this foolish mistake of the Rakshasas, he feels sad. Alas, he thinks with sorrow, they have undone all my work. These fools don't know the secrets of supernatural weapons. And when they have just used ropes in this way and jute and so on for tying him up, the astra then withdraws its power. He also realizes this. And the bound of mantra is undone when the physical bonds are added. So what gives us the power? The power is the mantra. All these powers are acquired through mantra. Now Hanuman is now held only by the ropes, and of course he can burst them asunder at any moment in time, and the Brahmastra cannot be used a second time. That's the rule. You only use it once. Once the missile is gone, that's it. It's only one of its type. And Indrajit understands this, and Hanuman too understands this, and knows he could spring up free if he wished. But he welcomes the opportunity to meet and talk firsthand, face to face with Ravana, and allows himself to be dragged to the king, patiently bearing all their insults and cruelties in seeming helplessness. They belabored and foully abused him and drag him through the streets. And the women and children come out to look at him and jeer. There is this saying, of course, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me or harm me. And we get hurled abuse, no doubt, from all kinds of quarters. It can be done these days directly, but the way of the coward is not to do it directly. You do it from the side, by email, or these days by various media groups and so on and so forth like that, sniping from the side. Even so, we should remain calm, understanding that our inner strength can withstand all of these things. After all, what are words? They're just mere small pebbles being thrown at us, not harming us in any way. So his captors, they take him to the court of Ravana and place him in front of the king, and forgetting the pain and insults he has borne, Hanuman looks with wrathful curiosity at the giant monarch sitting there. And as he gazes at him who is resplendent on his throne, he does have a sort of pitying admiration for the doomed Rakshasa, and this enters his thoughts. Even in the midst of this, an element of understanding and compassion is still there. And clad in silk of golden hue, with the royal crown on his head, the jewels inlaid in it shining brilliantly, Ravana sits there, a figure of dazzling splendor, representing all the apparent splendor that the senses alight on and that we're influenced by and become attached to. And the whole court is brilliant with shining gold and gems and pearls and silk. And his dark body lights up or is lit up by the marks of royalty, and he looks like a great radiant hill. But alas, despite all this, Hanuman, full of anger now, righteous anger, wonder, and pity, if only this great one had not swerved from the path of Dharma, he thinks. Not even Indra could equal him. What a form, what radiance, what strength. Trusting to the boon he had secured, he takes to wicked ways and has lost his happiness and forfeited his greatness. And as Hanuman was lost in thought thus, Ravana addresses his ministers. Find out from this wicked fellow who he is, where he has come from, who has sent him here, and why he's entered Lanka. Tell him to speak truthfully. And so with this, we'll leave off for this week. And I hope we've picked up a number of clues in connection with this story that is practical and useful in our own life of self-control and discipline. Om. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Thanks.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.